The sigh that heaves the grasses, whence thou wilt never rise, is of the air that passes, and knows not if it sighs. The diamond tears of dawning, thy low mound on the lea, those are the tears of morning, that weeps, but not for thee. That is a poem by Houseman, and you can buy a book with all of the poems by Houseman. What I want to briefly talk about today is the importance of oracy and of practicing speaking. What are the advantages of this? Unfortunately, people are judged by how they speak, and rather like a musical instrument, you can think of the voice box and the tongue and the mouth as being somewhat like a clarinet or a saxophone or a piano. It's really a musical instrument, and I think what we are trying to do is to constantly get better at speaking in order to express our thoughts more accurately. So I would say this is important. It's essential for some occupations, being a lawyer, being a vicar, being somebody who needs to speak regularly and about complex ideas. I would say needs to improve their articulation, their pronunciation. But I would also say that everyone would benefit from improving the clarity of their speech and being able to not only use an extensive and sophisticated variety of vocabulary, but in choosing words carefully and thoughtfully, because this will enable you to say precisely what you mean. And I think a lot of people are unhappy actually because they are unable to say what they think. And so the benefits of practicing speech, the same way you might learn to play the violin, are very strong. One of the ways I've practiced is by reciting poems, because with Houseman and with other English poets, you're really reading some of the best use of English language that there has been. You're reading brilliant users of the English language, and there are a great variety of different poets throughout the centuries. If you perhaps dislike the poets from the 18th century because the language seems irrelevant and not very applicable in modern terms, you can read modern poetry. And I think one of the ways to practice is to listen to speakers. For example, I listen to Stephen Fry, Richard Dawkins, and listening to them speak and trying to practice your own speech by reading short poems is a really great way to develop that skill of speaking. Being able to control the tempo and the pitch of your voice can really help you to be heard, because I think more people are more likely to actually listen if it's clear that you have developed your sense of speech, and they're more likely to consider the content of what you're saying. I wouldn't neglect the development of content and of education and of the substance. I certainly wouldn't recommend neglecting that and using your time to develop that in order to have a great presentation. I would certainly say that the development of the content is more important, but my recommendation would be not to neglect completely the presentation and of the delivery of your communication, because it can become an art form. And if you think some of the great speakers, they're paid a lot of money simply because they have really practiced how they speak, and their enunciation of words is enjoyable to listen to. People listen to audiobooks, people listen to long debates by people whose voices are engaging and compelling. And of course, if you have the the substance, if you have something important to say, that's going to help you deliver those messages with a greater sense of profundity. If you can use not only a greater scope of language, but how you actually speak is quite important too. So I just wanted to make a video about that because it might be something that you've not thought of, but finding poets and practicing speech, you can also record your voice, listen to it back, and you can almost make a diary, and you can see your progress over the course of a year, for example. Could be something that you might be quite surprised at how dramatic the improvements are over time. Listening to great speakers, their intonation, their pitch, their tempo, their phrasing, and in a sense, what you ideally want to do is develop your own voice and your own style. Going back to the idea of the instruments, you want to learn how to play the instruments, but then what you actually play, the tune that you play, hopefully that will come from your own sense of identity and personality, and you'll be able to express yourself how you wish to, but you do need to develop the technical skills in order to do that. The same way learning a violin requires going up and down the scales. It can become quite a methodical and laborious process, but it is important to develop the technical ability to play complex and beautiful sounding music. So if you haven't thought about this particular aspect, I would say a short amount of time, a small amount of time on a daily basis can really help you to improve this particular aspect, which is quite important and very important in particular jobs. Thank you.